Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today with us. We apologize for the delay. We're actually expecting Ms. Daniela Bass, the Director of the Division for Inclusion of Social Development in DESA, to join us. Probably she's a bit wrapping up in one of those events around, as it's a busy day. So I think we will start, and hopefully she will catch up. Thank you so much for being part of this very important discussion on the assistive technology that can help people with autism. It's a subject of great importance to all of us and to the state of Qatar. I'm very much pleased, of course, to welcome all of you to discuss the many ways by which technology is helpful in supporting individuals with autism spectrum disorder. I would first like to thank all of our speakers for being here to share their expertise with us today. Some traveled a long distance from Doha and from Japan as well, from Qatar and from Japan, and to be here present is very much depicting a strong commitment towards improving the daily lives of people with ASD. Supporting people on the autism spectrum or with learning disabilities is a priority to the state of Qatar. We want to see children and young people on the autism spectrum given the same start in life as any other child, or as adults given the same opportunities. Qatar is of the belief that with the right support, people with ASD can live happy, healthy, and independent lives with their own communities. Inclusion, integration, choice, and control over decisions that affect them are important elements for our strategy. In this regard, Qatar has worked hard to promote domestic and global acceptance of disability rights. Autism awareness is a huge accomplishment for Qatar, and I am proud to highlight that World Autism Awareness Day, which was adopted by the UN General Assembly in December 2007 and is celebrated annually on April 2nd, was proposed by Qatar, namely by Her Highness Sheikh Moza bint Nasser. Qatar is the only country in the region and one of the few in the world with a national autism plan, and one of the few countries to have a career day for persons with disabilities, which is an initiative to support the recruitment of Qatari citizens and residents to help them better integrate into Qatari society and achieve a better standard of living. Before I conclude my remark, I'm very pleased to inform you that Qatar will be hosting in December the International Conference on Disability Inclusive Development under the theme Harnessing the Power of Sustainable Development Agenda to Advance the Human Rights of Persons with Disabilities on 7 and 8 of December, which something my dear colleague who is sitting next to me, Her Excellency Ms. Amal Al-Manai, will speak about extensively in her remarks. We are, of course, delighted that there will be a number of UN officials attending that conference to contribute to this very important process. I will stop here, and we will hear from experts present here today the key role Qatar plays in enhancing the lives of individuals with ASD through cutting-edge research, innovation, technology, education, clinical services, and more. I thank you very much for being part of this discussion. And I'm very glad now to hand over to our excellent moderator, Dr. Andy Sheikh. He's the Vice President of the Public Health and Inclusion Division of the well-known US-based organization Autism Speaks. Autism Speaks it has been our traditional partner on this very dear subject to our heart. They're very well known for their expertise, their research-based activities, and we're very proud to always collaborate with Autism Speak. Dr. Andre, I give the floor to you now.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, friends and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, on the occasion of the Conference of State Parties to the Convention of Rights of Persons with Disabilities, it is an honor and a privilege for Autism Speak to support the state of Qatar's leadership on this important conversation about autism and technology. In recent years, various technologies have transformed the world in which we share, touching on every aspect of individual, family, and community life. It should come as no surprise that indeed autistic people and their families are also experiencing similar exponential growth in technological options, all aimed to ease daily challenges and enhance research, support and services, well-being, and outcome. Today, we have an exciting opportunity to hear and learn from some of the leading experts on the topic of autism technology. Each of our panelists of distinguished speakers will share details about their work and explore with us the promise that technology holds in helping our families around the world to enjoy a better tomorrow and a happy, independent, and productive life. Thank you. So I'd like to bring up, it's a pleasure to moderate this session today. I'd like to bring up our first, our speaker, Ms. Amal Al-Manai, Chief Executive Officer, Qatar Foundation for Social Work. The floor is yours.
I'll be conducting my speech in Arabic, so I appreciate if you put your headset. Thank you. شكرا سعادة الشيخة عليا على
Sheikha Alia, thank you for organizing this event. As a national organization, we will talk about the progress we made and the empowerment of people with disability using the technology. And thank you, Andy. Truly, I am Amal Manai. I am the Chief Executive Officer, as I was introduced, but I love to be talked about as an activist because I want to be close to these social cases. And for me, people with disability are my favorite people to spend time with. So what is the nature of the issue we're talking about in this session? So the evidence with regards to the spectrum, what is its importance, severity? The severity actually augments with time, and this all resources, governmental otherwise, needs to face all this. So according to CDC, the American CDC, there's a number of 1 of 68 are actually victim of autism, and this is all organization, governmental and non-governmental and private. We have to improve the life for these people, and here is the role of technology. So the importance to improve their cognitive and have an independent and dignified life. And what's going to improve the fairness of opportunities for so what can we do to enhance the access of these children to assistive technology? The assistive technology is a precondition to reduce the degree of inequality for non-disabled with non-disabled children, and hence effective use of that technology contributes to achieving the sustainable development goals and the targets for people with intellectual disability and with autism. And assistive products include all devices, equipment, instruments, and software whose purpose is to maintain and improve an individual functioning and independence. And this technology could promote the well-being and could enhance their ability to have a better performance and a healthy life and a productive and independent and dignified life. And with that, we don't leave any person behind according to the 2030 agenda. So the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability of 2000 strongly acknowledges the instrumental role of the assistive technology in empowering people with disability to enjoy and exercise their rights and freedom on equal footing to those with disabilities. And after the adoption of this convention, there was an improvement in the technology and also in the policy level. And so we have applications that focus more on the rights through its specificity. So the countries need to have these policies to allow the enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedom. And the same is with the 2030 agenda, which aims at an inclusive development and to leave no one behind. And also, this is an indication to use technology, and especially with people with disability. So if all conventions and the development agenda that we are all trying to achieve stresses on assistive intelligence, because all of the benefits of these technology that we feel them. One of my colleagues today on the panel, my sister Maha, so one of my colleagues on this panel, Maha Mansour, she has one of the most centers that we use, and they host more than 700 children of PU with they need assistive technology, and they benefit from them directly. And she will talk about their role in this matter. So the evidence we have suggests that a large number of unmet needs for assistive devices in developing countries. And Qatar is not an exception because we all strive for this. Unfortunately, the situation continues to be deficient for most of these countries, and it is a barrier to access these assistive technology. And these barriers include a lack of awareness, services, products, and accessibility, and also economic resources, because not everybody has the resources to buy these assistive services. And also the limited knowledge of people with disability and their families and health workers that provide these services. There is a lack for staff that could produce these products around the world. And with the evidence we have that national policies and laws increase the promotion to have access to these ATs, which is a wonderful thing to a point, and that by providing support and grants for and provide free training and to use, and that by removing all these barriers. And there's a commitment from the public and private sector to access these services and their product. So there has to be a fund to guarantee better access for these technologies. And that's why the country of Qatar, they work to incentivize the use of AT and assure their access. So what's the way forward? How do we get to their goals? There are 6 recommendations to facilitate our roadmap. First, policies and laws should be promoted to support the development and the production of assistive technology and make it accessible to all. Second, it's very important to provide these products for autism patients and mental disability, and we have to guarantee a way that they are free of these barriers. So we have to incentivize the research. We really believe in scientific research, and co-panelists will speak more about scientific research and how to have it benefit people with disability. And third is to also have have an awareness campaign for the patients and their family. It's not enough to have the technology, but also to have the people who could provide the services, and there has to be. And 5 is to invest in an environment to optimize these benefits of assistive technology. So what does it mean if I have but I cannot get to the bank? So the whole environment needs to be equipped. And the 6th recommendation is to monitor unmet needs. And I would like to mention the conference that the ambassador that will be organized in 6th to 8th of December. And what we try to do in Qatar from our position is to talk scientifically about the needs, the unmet needs, and how we could meet those needs, and this through matching between the articles of the conventions of people with disabilities and the SDGs, and what are the gaps that needs to be filled as a way to facilitate the work of organizing the governments and the people to provide access for people with disabilities. And I will invite you all to be in this conference to generalize the benefits for people with disability. And thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. And next, I'd like to, it's my pleasure to introduce Ms. Danelle Abbas, Director, Division for Inclusive Social Development at UNDSA. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. My deep apologies, Ambassador, and all you colleagues here. Actually, I have good news. I'm late because I was moderating an event organized by the President of the General Assembly, the one who is leaving, and the newcomer one. And they spoke actually a lot about making the United Nations more accessible and inclusive. And I believe, and one of the key areas when it comes to accessibility and inclusion nowadays definitely is, since we are living in the 4th industrial revolution, technology and STEM in general, science, math, technology, and engineering. So I do hope that in the near future, people within the spectrum of autism, thanks also to the use of technologies, depending also on the level and the kind of autism, will be able to employ it at the United Nations, thanks to technology. So in this sense, apologies for being late, but it was a very interesting discussion where all of these topics, including the one that the state of Qatar has brought to the table today, have to be seriously considered, particularly because, as you know, the steering committee that has been created by with the initiative of the President of the General Assembly and co-chaired by the Republic of Korea and the Ambassador of Antigua and Barbuda, this steering committee that wants once more to encourage making access to the United Nations easier also for employees. And I underline with belonging or in the autism spectrum. Well, they have announced that they would like to create accessible centers as the one we have here at the United Nations all over the world. So thank you very much for this initiative, because besides talking about CRPD and the various articles related to technologies and autism, I think that the United Nations are one of those employers who have to demonstrate with good practices that what we have been discussing here today can be put in practice also within the system, to lead by example. So apologies, but this was the reason of my delay. What I would like to share with you very briefly is that, well, first of all, allow me to commend the state of Qatar for the various initiatives it is taking in many different fields that are extremely important for the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, and for the division I have the honor to lead, the Division for Inclusive Social Development, that for the department works for the whole United Nations system on social groups, so-called vulnerable groups, but thanks to technology, they might be less vulnerable. And here I'm referring to persons with disabilities, older people, youth, the family. And the family, as we know, is a strong area in which Qatar has been engaged and involved for a long, long time. So what is the role of assistive technologies when it comes to autism and the family? But then Qatar, again, is also very active in the field of disability from different angles. One of these is the example of the event today and many other important activities that Qatar is planning by the end of this year. And the third domain that might seem not to be applicable here, but actually it is a sports for all. And Qatar is, together with the Principality of Monaco, co-chairing the group of Friends of Sports, Peace and Development. And sports and technology and assistive technologies for athletes who have autism is extremely important. So when I think of technology and assistive technologies and accessibility and usability and affordability and how all of this helps people with autism, I think that Qatar is an extremely interesting state to look at in terms of good practices of uniting many topics and not working in silos, on the contrary. So this is something I wanted to bring to your attention. Now, why assistive technologies are important? For various reasons. If we think of CRPD and the various articles, if we think of the Addis Ababa agenda that talks about financing for development and therefore financial inclusion, so financial inclusion to be able to provide assistive technologies to people with autism who might not necessarily be able to afford them, so to facilitate their life and to promote the well-being of people with autism is extremely important. If we think of the 2030 agenda, leaving no one behind, and all the different goals where persons with disabilities are referred to, but we do know that the agenda is an agenda for all people of all abilities and of all ages. So if I think of assistive technologies and people with autism, my question is, how does this apply to the overarching goal number 1, poverty? How can assistive technologies enable and facilitate persons with the disabilities who have access to education, SDG 4, to have access to employment, SDG 8, to have access to leisure and fun, etc., so reduce the gap of social inequalities or economic inequalities, SDG 10. And then, in a world that is aging, when we think about urban areas, and we know that the world is moving more and more towards urban areas, how can assistive technologies help persons with autism, families where there is a member with autism, mothers who might have autism, and fathers who might have autism, actually, to provide the well-being to their family, to their children, in an urbanized world? So how can assistive technologies play a role there when it comes to transportation and many other areas of work? So cities, urban areas, SDG 11. And then if we think of inclusive societies and cohesive societies, the role of assistive technologies and autism, SDG 16, and partnerships. We're sitting here around this table, and what we're doing actually is implementing SDG 17. How can we partner with the private sector so that the private sector appreciates, on one hand, why services and products offered to people with autism are key, and on the other hand, why persons with autism are excellent people to be employed, or they themselves can open their own enterprises, because we do know that autism, depending on the kind of autism, actually brings out of the person skills and enormous potential that not everybody has. So when I think of assistive technologies and people with autism, I think of all of this. I think of financial inclusion. I think of inclusion from these different angles, thanks to the map we have with the 17 goals. And I think of other goals that we can achieve also through sports, which are an amazing way. And here also assistive technologies can play a very important role for persons with autism to find a way to relate to teams, to interact with people for whatever possibilities there are, depending on their abilities to interact with people, but yet sports and assistive technologies can also play here a wonderful role. So again, I commend Qatar, the state of Qatar, for this initiative, and thank you very much.
Much. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. It's Ms. Maha Al-Mansouri. She's the Executive Director of MADA Center for Assistive Technology, and she will highlight Qatar's success in this area in her remarks. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Andy, and thank you, Your Excellency, for this opportunity. As Her Excellency mentioned, I flew 14 hours just to be with you, and I would like to thank you for your commitment to the topic as well. Today we are going to share with you what we are doing in Qatar when it comes to technology to benefit the people with the disabilities and in particular with autism. So I should carry the presentation? Yeah, okay. First of all, I would like to share with you who's MEDA. I come from an organization called MEDA, Qatar Assistive Technology Center. We are a private institute for public benefits, founded in 2010. And it was an initiative that aims to promote digital inclusion and building technology-based community that meets the need of persons with disabilities and also for the elderly people in Qatar. These days, we are not looking only for focusing on Qatar, but also beyond Qatar, because we are focusing on the Arabic language. So we are looking to enhance all the platforms, all the resources for the Arab world. MEDA is considered as a center of excellence in the region for the digital accessibility. And in a minute, you will see what are the activities that MEDA is taking. Our vision is to enhance ICT accessibility in Qatar and beyond. And how are we doing this? We are unlocking the potential of people with function limitation. And you can see that we change, or we are trying now to use this term to include everyone in this term, because the focus of technology is always on function, not on the limitation of a person. So this is the good thing that we would like also to highlight. We enable the potentials through enabling ICT accessible capability and also the platform. And this is the key achievements that we've done as an example of how we are building capability. You can see that we successfully accredited 74 super users from many sectors that we are working with through a strategic partnership, and we are lucky today to have one of our main partner, Shafallah Center. They are one of our main partners who have the program delivered in their entity, and you can see that we worked with other sectors to enhance their ability to provide good service for people with disability when it comes to technology, because we believe that technology shouldn't work in isolation with from other services. It should be part of education, it should be part of rehabilitation, and it should be everywhere when it comes to providing services. When it comes to platform, we proudly announced that we score on the national level 94 on the government website accessibility score, and this is done or tracked by MEDA Center itself. And talking about international achievements, we are scoring 5th worldwide on the DARE index, and today on the first roundtable, one of the 3G ICT representative was talking about the DARE index. So, and it shows the commitment of Qatar in implementing the policy, implementing the rights of people with disability when it comes to digital inclusion. Back to the focus of MEDA, we are looking, we are focusing on education to enable equal opportunities, ensuring inclusive education system for all level and long line learning as well, and also the culture and community. And as you know that we are heading the World Cup, we are trying to make Qatar more accessible and friendly for people with function limitation, and this is through all the platforms. It's not enough to look at assistive technology in isolation with the platforms. So we also look at kiosks, we look at websites, applications, and we try to accredit them according to the international standards. This is how we are implementing our strategy, or how we are delivering our program through activities and services. MEDA acts as a strategic enabler for the sectors, and all our services are provided for free. So this is why we consider MEDA as a center of excellence and repository of information for anyone who wants to benefit from the knowledge around Arabic e-accessibility subject. So in the services, we have the training, we have the accessibility audit and advisory, and also the certification and accreditation. On the activities, we carry a lot of advocacy and policy with policymakers. We try to raise their awareness on the importance of inclusion and digital inclusion, about procurement, about all the digital aspects. Also, we carry a lot of research and the publication, and you can refer to our website to look at all the publications that we did. Today, I would like to focus on innovation and how innovation affects the life of people with disability. Specifically, we are going to talk about part of our innovation around autism. So before we start the autism subject, I would like to show you the model that Qatar carries to enhance the number of solutions for people with disability. As you know, that the Arabic language is rarely found in available assistive technology. So this is why we are trying to widen the number of technologies and make them available on the least cost. And also, most of the time, we try to make it under the common creative license, so people can access them, and people can also build upon them their solutions, so they can also enhance the private sector when it comes to business around assistive technology. So the focus that, the four focuses in Qatar is to establish ICT Accessibility Innovation Hub. Not only the physical center, which is the innovation lab, but also we have our platforms that can be accessed anytime to have the consultation around innovation, the need, the concerns, the people with the disability focus groups. So this is how we act as a hub for innovation. Also promoting innovation in ICT accessibility. Of course, we need to spread the word. We need people to understand where is the availability of Arabic solutions, and how can they get them, who are doing what, and what is happening on this part of the world. And we carry this through two things. The first channel is our periodic Nafad, which means access in English, and it is available in our website. And we can, if you are interested, we can also email them to you, so you can keep updated about what's happening on the Arabic assistive technology. And of course, it comes in two languages, and hopefully we are going to add the French language soon. So it will take some time from us. Building ICT accessibility innovation capability, the ecosystem. Of course, the ecosystem in the Arab world is not mature enough, so we are trying to allocate opportunities and fund for completing the ecosystem and encouraging innovators and also small businesses to have this opportunity and to access the innovation program that we are offering, so they can expand their businesses and expand their researches toward the assistive technology. All of this are documented and available through the MEDA portal. It's a dedicated portal called AT Meta Portal, and this portal is a unique one in the Arab world because it is a repository for all the AT information that is tested and also certified from MEDA. So it's a good opportunity for the Arabic language speaking countries to benefit from. Stimulating and the adoption of ICT accessibility solution and services. And here we can see that this is examples. I will just pass them because I will be sticking to my time. This is number of the solutions that I just explained and how we get to launch these products or solutions is through 3 tracks that we are offering, the competitions. And you can see that we partner with international organization and also national organization to support the accessible innovation. Also, the entrepreneurship grants, and we have a lot of MOUs signed with many incubation centers inside Qatar and outside Qatar. And we have the direct grant and localization, and we are going to, in a minute, showing an example of 2 innovation that was done for autism in a specific. This is the portfolio of innovation that we are expanding, and you can have some reports on the table outside the hall. So I encourage you to take a copy to look at these innovation, how they are done, and how much investment was done on them. Where can you find them? Which one is free, and what the cost of the others? Tawasul and the Clicker. These are the 2 products I would like to share with you today. Tawasul. It's an open source, and it's the first Arabic dictionary for symbols. You know that the autism or the autistic people are using symbols instead of words. And all the available resources right now, it's an international symbols. Sometimes it doesn't match the need of certain cultures. So this is why we created this set of symbols, around 350 plus. And it is an open source, so all developers can take these symbols, add them to their innovations, or create a new innovation based on them. The culture, religion, and the language are the main difference in this set of symbols. The good news that we discovered that the symbols are not used only for AAC, but also it was used with refugee when they wanted to communicate with in other languages. So it was a good thing as well to add to this innovation. The innovation is available, and you can access it, and you can download it for free. And this is an example how we carry on or excel on an innovation. So this is a Tawasul AAC application. We funded also this application to use the set of samples that we just shared with you. So this is how we try to keep up with innovations and make them sustainable and available for the Arab world. Clicker 7, maybe a lot of you get across Clicker 7. It's a very famous literacy software used in schools internationally. The good thing about Clicker 7 that it has a lot of awards, and it is approved by many of the education institutes. So this is why we partner with CREC, the company that produce a Clicker, and we supported them to create the Arabic version of a Clicker. So with the Clicker, it's a platform that they can use the samples, and they can express themselves in their classrooms, in their jobs, and they can independently do their work without any or minimum support. Interesting that you will see an example from Shafallah Center of how they are using the technology that we just talked about in practice. So innovation is happening in one place, and then the implementation and practice are happening in another place as well in Qatar. These are some information about the Clicker 7, and of course, most of our innovation will tackle many function limitation, not only autism. So we can see that this, for example, a product will support other disability, not only autism, but autism one of the beneficiaries. You can see now the number of use. We have 30,000 user license available for schools in Qatar, 150 schools, 200 license per school, and also the amount of support that we provided for the in the consultation was 105 consultation for the company. And this is only an example of how we are doing the localization or the innovation around Arabic assistive technology. Thank you very much all for this, and I'll be around for any question later on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Al-Masouri, for that excellent overview of Qatar's success in this area. It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Dina Al-Thani. She's assistant professor at College of Sciences and Engineering, Hamad bin Khalifa University in the state of Qatar. Dr. Al-Thani will reflect on the role of sensing technologies and virtual reality in supporting and teaching learning in children with Autism Spectrum Disorder. Dr. Al-Thani, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Andy. It's really a pleasure to be among this great panel, actually. And I would like to thank, firstly, Her Excellency Sheikh Alia for bringing all of us together today and for the idea. And I would like also to thank the Permanent Mission of Qatar. So I'm an academic, basically. So my talk might be quite different. So excuse me for that. I will present some novel research results from Qatar. And I will take you through our most recent research paper. So I come from HBKU. HBKU is a newly introduced university founded in 2010 by Her Highness Sheikh Hamoza bint Nasser, and it is under the umbrella of Qatar Foundation. The university basically, it's a research-based university. It's a postgraduate university. The College of Science of Engineering was introduced in 2016, where I joined the university, and it was my pleasure to be one of the founding members in this college. So basically, in this research, in this college, the main research group, the main research area were defined as an 8 research area. One of them was the health and human-centered technology, which I am leading. In this research area basically comes to the heart of the Qatar Vision 2030. In particular, the human development. How can we support the human being by developing AI and technologies that support their health and well-being and their education? So my research today is basically discussing how can we use technologies to assess attention in children with autism, and why attention and why children with autism. Basically, children with autism, as you may know, are characterized with neurodevelopment disorder that can result or may result in atypical attention. So they give attention differently than a typical child. And that's what hinders teachers in schools and specialists when they engage in a learning process. So how can we help teachers, specialists in a learning process to make sure that a child is understanding the content and is following up in the educational curriculum? So why, as I said, it is because autism is characterized by a specific behavior, and we know that educational and behavioral intervention are highly effective with children with autism spectrum disorder. So basically, we are looking into how can we support the education process. So to take this forward, we followed a basic research scheme. So what we've done, we went and reviewed the literature, looked at what are the most recent research available to assess attention and help teachers and specialists to do that. We then went and interviewed experts in research centers and schools within this project, which are Rinad Academy, which is part of Qatar Foundation, and Step by Step Center, which is a center in Qatar for children with disabilities. We've identified three main aspects. What are the attentional behavioral? Are there specific behavior that tell us that a child is giving attention or not? How do we assess attention now? What do teachers do now in a class? Is it a subjectly assessment? Is it an objective assessment? How do they assess children? We then investigate, we ask them, do you use some technologies? And of course, the answer was, for now, no, we don't use. And mainly the assessment is mainly subjective by the teacher and the specialist. The research was published in two journals that I can share with you later. We've realized that we can actually detect attention using technology. However, with children with autism, obtrusive sensors and wristwatch and all these kind of technology that attach to a human body might not be possible. It might affect the learning process. So we thought of developing basically a non-obstructive technology, and there where the novelty of our research come to. So we looked at basically detecting eye movement and facial expression to analyze what are the behavioral parameters, how on what basis a child is giving attention. So basically our research goal was, can we measure attention objectively rather than subjectively? And by doing that, we would need to investigate the behavioral. We also wanted to have a subjective matrix to evaluate it in a simulated setting, not in a real setting. So we also investigated ways of simulating such a task. Our final goal is to come up with an AI, an artificial intelligence algorithm that tell us when a child is giving attention and when a child is not giving attention, and the parameters of this behavior. So basically, we perform an experiment with 20 ASD child and 25 neurotypical peer. The age of the children was between 7 and 11, and the children were of moderate ASD. Basically, we conducted an experiment of 4 tasks where we set the child in a virtual reality setting, and we asked the child to perform a task. And why do we use virtual reality? Because of the potential of virtual reality in simulating and mimicking the real life. So they participated into 4 to 5 minute task. And as I said, it was a virtual reality task. And you can see here the virtual reality setting that we have developed. It mimics a classroom setting. And you can see basically a photo of a child within the performing the experiment. The main finding, basically, it's not... so basically, the main finding is when we compare children with autism and typical children, there is huge similarities, not differences, actually. Very small differences were noticed in the facial expression. And in fact, the differences rely mainly in the mouth and lip parts. In terms of eye gaze, the finding suggests that they do give attention quickly, surprisingly. However, they do not dwell a lot on a task. So they lose their attention faster. And there where a caregiver or a parent could go in and orient the child to give attention to the task. And we have published this research recently in one of the highly ranked impact factor journals. This is for all the preliminary result of our research. It is still ongoing, and within line of this research, we just got awarded with a grant from Qatar Foundation. It's the Idea Development Grant, developing the same setting project but within an augmented reality app. We developed an existing prototype in the desktop, and we are developing now the augmented reality app. The idea was granted, as I said, by Qatar Foundation, and it's in the process of development. Thank you very much for listening, and I would like to thank the panelists. Thank you.
Dr. Althani, for that great overview of your research. It's my pleasure to present our introduction to the next speaker, Professor Takashi Izuzu, who is Associate Professor at Graduate Schools of Art and Sciences at University of Tokyo. Dr. Izuzu will share with us his thoughts on the use of technology to reduce social barriers. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Andy, for your kind introduction and the wonderful work by Autism Speaks. And first of all, I would like to deeply thank Her Excellency Ambassador Aliya Al-Thani and State of Qatar for the strong leadership in this area. And I also would like to thank Misbah and Dessa for the continuing leadership in this important agenda. Thank you very much. And today, I would like to talk about our initiatives on utilizations of technologies to reduce social barriers and empower community members to create inclusive environment. The Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities wisely transformed the concept of disability with recognizing that what we need to address is various social barriers that may hinder individuals' participation in society. This social model is important to be widely known by all beyond the disability community so that we all can start addressing our physical, informational, and attitudinal barriers in various sectors. While assistive technologies are very useful for individuals with autism, those technologies are also useful to let the social model understood by community members and implemented widely to realize more inclusive and accessible world. Since we have distinguished panelists who have wonderful expertise on assistive technologies for individuals with autism today, I will focus on technologies to empower community members to be active supporters and reduce barriers. The first example is the psychological first aid e-orientation developed by the University of Tokyo, Kanazawa University, and the National Institute of Mental Health Japan, together with UN agencies and organizations of persons with disabilities. This e-orientation, funded by the Japan Agency for Medical Research and Development, is a free and easy-to-watch video clips accessible from mobile phones, tablets, and computers. This is based on guidelines by WHO and partners, which is for anyone who wants to support someone in various challenging situations, like after natural disasters. This e-orientation includes not only instructions, but also simulations and role plays, and it orients how to contact individuals and offer support if requested without harming anyone and in a culturally appropriate manner. In addition to English version, Japanese, Malay, Filipino, and Thai versions are currently being developed. It has voiceover and subtitles to ensure accessibility. Since this PFA, the psychological first aid e-orientation has shown to be efficient and effective in orienting a big number of people, we are developing a brief e-orientation on inclusion of persons with disabilities in emergency settings. In humanitarian crises, persons with disabilities and individuals with autism often experience exclusion at various stages of disasters, including in the evacuation sites. This e-orientation is aimed at increasing awareness and knowledge on disability-inclusive disaster risk reduction among humanitarian actors, including local authorities and volunteers and community members, to understand things to do and not to do based on the convention and the Interagency Standing Committee guidelines, which is under development now. It is going to be field tested this fall. And the last example is a transformative measure to reduce barriers and increase accessibility in communities through promotion of mutual support initiated and run by young people in Japan. Individuals with autism have various needs depending on individual diversities. So it is important that the society become responsive in addressing a wide range of barriers, and this cannot be achieved via uniformed infrastructural changes only. The Empower project promotes awareness on the social model and promotes coming out by supporters with a logo which indicates, please feel free to tell me if there is anything I can do. If people show their will to offer support with this logo, the environment will become more accessible, kinder, and safer. For example, if I want to sit down since I'm not feeling well in a bus, I can easily find someone to ask for a seat. They developed this magenta star logo since it is easy to recognize among children and older persons regardless of culture, and young people can wear it as part of their fashion. This is how it works. This has been extremely helpful, not only for individuals with autism, but everyone, not to leave anyone behind. Through this initiative, attitudinal barriers among each other seem to be decreasing, and anyone can be supporters and beneficiaries. In Japan, many persons with disabilities are put in this batch and providing support utilizing their experiences. They are currently developing an iPhone and Android applications on this so that those who want support and those who want to support can be matched and communicate easily. In addition, many stores are now starting to put the logo at their entrances so that anyone, including individuals with autism, can drop by and ask for support when needed. And based on our experience, many of needs can be addressed with small support without technical background. And the Empower project is preparing a tablet for those shops in which there are a list of useful contacts, folders with various useful accessibility applications, and so on. Utilizing the tablet, for example, older persons who are managing small shops can now easily communicate with non-Japanese speakers and those who prefer specific ways of communication, such as in writing or in symbols. This initiative has been spreading beyond youth and starting to be integrated into activities and policies of local and national governments, as mentioned in a statement by the Permanent Representative of Japan on the International Day of Persons with Disabilities last year, such as in Meguro Ward in Tokyo, Nagasaki Prefecture, and others. And private sector is also joining the force. The Empower project has also been collaborating with UN system, including the UN Secretariat, UNICEF, UNFPA, UNDP, UN Women, WFP, and UNU. The utilization of technologies among both individuals with autism and community members is useful for reducing barriers and promoting accessibility and inclusion, and it should be invested more. Simple technologies for community members can provide great opportunity to know the convention and the social model, and even transform barriers into great support and empowerment among each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zuzu, for that presentation on the use of technology to enhance support in the community level. It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Ms. Nora Al-Sulati. Ms. Al-Sulati is the head of Speech and Language Therapy Unit at Shafala Center for Persons with Disabilities, and she will present a role of technology in the therapeutic intervention of people with autism and current success stories of the Shafala Center staff using assistive technology. The floor is yours.
Our topic is the role of assistive technology service for autism in Shafallah Center. Sorry. With the first. Sorry. Sorry. This one? Okay. Shafallah Center for Persons with Disability was established in 1999 under Her Highness Sheikha Moza bint Nasser al-Musnad to provide rehabilitative and educational service to persons with mental disability and autism who are under 21. We in Shafallah Center we have many departments and units, family and counseling department, educational service departments, medical and vocational departments. In education the service departments we have autism department, mild and moderate disability department, early childhood department, severe mental department, and activities departments. Autism program. This section includes applicants from 6 to 16 years old, and this section provides education service based on individual plan for applicants for each case. The whole number for applicants in Shafallah Center is 643. It's 14 presented for autism and 86 for the other disability. Assistive technology, this definition, any item or equipment modified to increase the independence of individuals with disability and their functional capabilities. The the assistive technology helps applicants with autism to increase their communication, to increase their independence and enhance their self-confidence, and to facilitate their social integration. We have the partnership between MADA and Shafallah Center in building capability programs and provide access to technology. For building capability programs, MADA provide 80 training for 11 super users in Shafallah Center. The role of super user to identify the suitable 80 solution for applicants in Shafallah Center and provide access to technology. Also, at Shafallah Center, we have 7 stations, include more than 200 tools and devices, which were provided by MADA. It's free for Qatari and non-Qatari. And also the aim of the 780 station to ensure easy access to technology by applicants. Today, Shafallah Center provides full 80 service independently by 80 referral, receiving the referral from for applicants requiring technology, and this is the form for the referral to assist from. And it's include the general information, communication, and motor abilities, and suggests. And we have also the AT assessment, assess and conduct evaluation session for the applicants, including applicants with autism. We assessed 73% with the applicant with autism. This is the form for AT assessment. It's included some information with the student, environment, task, and tools. This sample of devices using during AT assessment for applicants with autism in Shafallah Center. And also we have AT training, 300 hours of super user training, 80 hours family training, 100 hours staff training, and student training following up. The last one is the AT provision. Recommended and provide the appropriate assistive technology devices, tools for applicants. We provide 620 AT solution for students and the group. AT service outcomes at Shafallah Center. 620 applicants who benefits from AT, and 7 AT station, 180 training hours for the staff, 80 super user training, and 380 training hours for 80 super user, 700 devices, and 80 solution, family training hours 80. And we have the success story. Ghanem he is 30 years old, a boy with autism. He was non-verbal and he had difficulty in communication and learning. The intervention is he was referred to the AT service and at Shafallah. They recommend to use the clicker programs and Tawasul samples. Now he is able to employ the Tawasul sample in his daily life and communication, and use the program Clicker 7 with the Tawasul samples independently to achieve the learning goals. Now we have the video for Ghanem.
خالد مع والده
إلى مطعم.
غانم، وين صورة خالد؟ خالد وين خالد؟ اسمه ايه؟
خالد.
شاطر. وين المطعم؟
مطعم.
وين مع؟
مع.
وين كلمة ذهب؟
ذهب.
وين المطعم؟
مطعم.
شاطر. شو هذا النوم؟ ذهب.
خالد.
مع.
مع.
يد. مع. خالد.
Thank you, Ms. El-Salati, for that update of the wonderful program, education program at the Shafallah Center. It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Sarah Abdullah, Qatar Biomedical Research Institute, HBKU. Dr. Abdullah will present an overview of the ongoing translational research projects and on autism spectrum disorders conducted at Neurological Disorder Research Center of the Qatar Biomedical Research Institute. Dr. Abdullah.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today. I also want to say thank you to Her Excellency Sheikha Alia for organizing such an important event, an endeavor that everyone should be really, really dedicated to. It's really nice to see that there's so much dedication towards helping people or individuals with the disorder. At QBRI, we look at it through a different perspective. We're more research-based, through the need for clinical and medical applications. So my talk will focus a little bit on that and hopefully tie into assistive technologies as well.
So the Qatar Biomedical Research Institute is a national center of excellence in biomedical research. Our aim is to create a global hub for translational medicine. Furthermore, it's our mission to be engaged in both basic and applied medical research to translate novel discoveries and to improve preventative and treatment strategies, paving the way towards personalized medicine. At QBRI, since we're a national institute, we cater to the national health priorities of Qatar. So that being said, we consist of 3 main centers: cancer, diabetes, and the Neurological Disorders Research Center. At the NDRC, we aim to focus on researches towards neurodegenerative disorders and, of course, neurodevelopmental disorders. Under the umbrella of neurodevelopmental disorders is Autism Spectrum Disorder. So in my presentation today, I'm just going to briefly highlight a lot of the ongoing researches that we're doing in regards to Autism Spectrum Disorder. In order for us to support our scientists, we've developed a core facility. We have 7 of them, each of them equipped with cutting-edge technologies, and they consist of stem cells, structural biology, advanced microscopy and imaging, bioinformatics, genomics and genome technology, flow cytometry, and proteomics. Since ASD is multifactorial and it's heterogeneous, our approach towards trying to understand underlying mechanisms of this disorder is to attack it through as many avenues as possible. So one of the first avenues that we address is utilizing eye tracking technologies, excellently introduced by my colleague, Dr. Dina, in which we use eye tracking technology to not only screen, but as an early diagnostic tool for prevention. So one of the projects that we're currently working on is to screen infants as early as 6 months, because it's shown time and time again that the earlier you intervene, the better the outcome for these children. So we screen children as early as 6 months and identify prenatal components that we believe contribute to the overall altered neurodevelopmental trajectory, and from that identify biomarkers for clinical applications in the future as well. Another aspect of our research focuses on identifying the genetic contributors towards a disorder. We've successfully sequenced and continuously are sequencing individuals that have the disorder and their family members as well. And through this, our plan is to find out whether it is through mutations and comparable components, how we can assess the genetic underlying mechanisms that contribute to the outcome of the disorder. We're also investing a lot in stem cell technology, so we derive these cells directly from the patients themselves, and we define their overall functionality, their transcriptional mechanisms or molecular mechanisms, their epigenetic profiles, and by trying to understand cells derived from these patients specifically, we hope that it will give us a better understanding of the underlying mechanisms behind the disorder as well. And lastly, we also look at the immunological contributors towards the disorder. We see how they affect brain development, we see how they affect their functionality, and ultimately the goal by analyzing these different avenues is biomarker discovery and towards personalized medicine. Since ASD is so heterogeneous and so multifactorial, the best way forward is personalized medicine. And our overall goal is to perform brain mapping, to devise diagnostic devices towards antibody technologies, gene editing, and of course cell-based therapies as well. So just to sum up the end goal of our translational direction, ASD involves multiple etiologies and pathophysiological mechanisms. Hence, personalized medicine is the most promising approach to develop technologies that will contribute towards the most effective treatments for individuals with the overall umbrella condition. Therefore, the need for careful and methodological evaluation of emerging technologies is important to assist clinicians and individuals with a disorder. That being said, I want to also stress on the fact that we've developed an interdisciplinary research program which focuses on not only this expertise of the neuroscientists within our center, but tapping in to the expertise of our scientists within the Cancer and Diabetes Center as well. As I said previously, it's a heterogeneous disorder, so the best way forward is to utilize expertise of scientists in very different fields. We're tapping into scientists that have expertise in cell biology, bioinformatics, oncologists, pediatricians, neurologists, psychiatrists, geneticists, the list goes on. And we're partnering with a lot of local and national institutions such as Shafallah, Cornell University, Sidra Medicine, our branch sisters at Hamad bin Khalifa University and Qatar Foundation, and external collaborators as well, such as the Cleveland Clinic, O-Links and Genix, and more. Ultimately, by deriving blood samples collected from individuals with ASD, we hope to assess them for their genetics, metabolomics, proteomics, and finally devise platforms like ELISA or immunoassays for clinicians to be able to help them in the future. So with that, I'd like to pass on the mic to my colleague, Dr. Fuad, who will be sharing with you a little bit more in detail the eye tracking technology researches that we do at QBRI. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you going to introduce me or shall I start?
Yes. Let me introduce you. My apologies. Our next distinguished speaker is Dr. Fouad Al-Shaban, Senior Scientist at Autism Epidemiology Research Team, Neurological Disorder Research Center at the Qatar Biomedical Research Institute, QRBI. Dr. Al-Shaban, please.
I would like to thank Your Excellency, Ambassador Ali, for organizing this interesting meeting. Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, I'm going to talk about two main research projects that QBRI been involved into. One of the projects is still active, while the other is done, and I'm going to talk about the findings. The use of eye tracking in early diagnosis of ASD in Qatar, and as we mentioned, assistive technology, but using this technology for the early screening, detection, and diagnosis of ASD is going to have a great impact. As my colleague mentioned, the early intervention will result in a better prognosis for this disorder. Eye tracking is a process of measuring eye positions and eye movement. And the device has two main components: a light source, which is usually an infrared and directed towards the eye, and a camera that tracks the reflection of the light source. With machine learning and image processing and mathematical algorithm, we can determine the position of the eye in different views. This is the device, and this is the setting that we are using at the QBRI. This is a real screening for a child 5 months old. Of course, numerous studies have identified that eye gaze deficit is one of the most important features of ASD. And this will be manifested in poor eye contact for individuals with ASD. So whether we can use this difference as an objective marker, Dr. Thomas Fraser did a comprehensive meta-analysis of 122 studies, and he found that individuals with autism show a reliable pattern of gaze abnormalities. These patterns suggest basic problem with the discriminating social and non-social objects. The hypothesis is typically developed. Normal people will spend more time looking at social stimuli, what we call it, rather than the people affected with autism. So calculating this in autism risk index, we can predict whether this person is going to get ASD early in life or also to diagnose that individual. The motivating factor actually is to find an objective way of diagnosis, because all the diagnostic tools now, it's a subjective, and it's a subject for inter-rater bias. Also, the need for easier way to estimate the prognosis and the effect of intervention. Aim one is to develop an Arabic language audio-visual stimuli battery, which is closely aligned with the existing one from the Cleveland Clinic. Number two is to validate those risk index on Qatari population. The methods, first, we took the Cleveland Clinic existing stimuli. This is one of the few. And we translated it to Arabic, and we created our own stimuli. So this is an example of the Cleveland. Oh, it's not. Well, okay. Let's try. Yeah. Okay, I will move to the other slide if possible. This is our, of course, I'm representing the same guy. Of course, Eric is the one leading the project with Thomas Fraser at the Cleveland. This is another stimulus. If you see, it's in English language. And we are going to, okay, I will move to the next one. That's good. This is our stimuli, exactly the same, but the talk, there is someone who's talking in Arabic. This is also another one example of how we did the. I will move to the next one. I hope the next one will. So the validation of the R. We started with the validation. The plan is to include 150 individuals with ASD and 150 control. And this is an actual setting of using the eye tracking in diagnosis of an individual. Yes, this one. No. Yeah.
أردت أن أكون طبيبة بيطرية. يبدو أنك تحبين الحيوانات. أنا أحب الحيوانات. وما هو حيوانك المفضل؟ الكلب.
And what is your favorite animal? The dog. Do you want more juice?
The whole stimuli takes between 5 to 7 minutes, which means that the whole process will take not more than 7 minutes for the diagnosis. This is one of our earliest results. If you could see that the typically developed, they are mainly looking on the face, which is the social stimulus, we call it, compared to the autistic one. Of course, the implication is using it for diagnosis and screening and as a prognostic tool to measure the efficacy of intervention. I'm going to move to the second project, which is the prevalence study. It's the first study done in Qatar and the whole region that we use screening of children attending the schools. If Dr. Chi remember, this photograph is taken during a workshop on autism at the Shafallah Medical Genetics Center in 2011, where I presented the research plan for the prevalence, and I got the support from all the collaborators, including the Autism Speaks. And we started the project in 2 phases. Phase 1, to review records of children 5 to 12 years diagnosed with ASD from all the hospitals and special needs center. and the number was 1,400. And we screened 93 primary schools in Qatar with a number involved more than 9,000. They filled the social communication questionnaires. We translated the questionnaires and validated it. So it's now Qatar Foundation related questionnaire. And we used them, then we reviewed everything, and the rate, the prevalence rate, 1.14, which means that there is 1 in 87 children affected with autism. The gender male to female ratio 4:1, which means that for every 56 boys, we'll have 1 autistic compared to 230 of girls. The main findings, which is very unique to Qatar actually, and we should be proud of, that most of the cases diagnosed with ASD, almost 90% of them diagnosed before age 5, and around 60% before age 3. And this is, if you go and look on the figures, you could rarely find in any other country these results, it means that we provided the facilities to diagnose ASD as soon as possible. The other important finding is the consanguinity. We found that consanguinity has no effect on the prevalence rate, because most of people think that consanguinity related to the increased rate of having ASD, but we found, which is a novel findings as well, that it has significantly related with the severity, which means that the comorbidities are more, like intellectual disability, epilepsy, and other. Of course, we reviewed the intervention type. We found that mainly speech therapy is 91%, behavioral therapy 33%, occupational 15%, and the other diet and some of the hyperbaric. And the other important things in that study, we created for the first time in Qatar and the whole region a registry for ASD. Till now, 1,300 cases with ASD, each have 110 different variables, demographic, social, clinical, medical, etc. And it's going to be available for researchers. And of course, we are going to add the other age group on top of that. Publications, we published 5 publications regarding the study. The last one is on Journal of Child Psychology and Psychiatry, which is the whole national study. Of course, we have so many collaborators and so many help, but this is the team, the autism team. I call it the A team, the 4A team. And of course, these are some of our collaborators, Thomas Fraser and Shi and Eric von Boon. And this is the photo of last April the 2nd, the Autism Awareness Day. Okay, thank you very much.
For sharing those exciting findings from the epidemiology study, as well as the ongoing eye tracking work. There's a slight change in the program. I apologize for that. So our next speaker is actually a gentleman by the name of Paul Kotler. Paul is a self-advocate, a college student, and he calls himself a typist. He communicates primarily through typing, and he's happy to be here to share with us some of his perspective on assistive technology. Paul, welcome.
How to help others without a voice. My breakthrough in communication came through typing when I was 14, after years of attempting to speak. I worked with Soma, using her rapid prompting method, which led to independent typing. I have very good memories of Soma, in a very matter-of-fact way, calming me, and being convinced that I was able to comprehend, and read, and understand. Life held hope. The calm, and always believing, presence of my teachers and therapists played an important role in typing, and brought meaning to my life, after toiling, and really being stuck, looking at the lives of others, and being excluded, without a way to communicate. Typing allows me to advocate for others in need of a system for communication. Providing a system for this, that allows very meaningful communication, can break the cycle of assuming non-speaking people are cognitively impaired. The first step is to acknowledge the intelligence of non-speaking individuals. Being aware of the obstacles is key, so individuals can be supported appropriately. Typing is more complex and difficult than people realize. Many people have dyspraxia, which makes it difficult to always make your body do what your mind intends. This leads people to thinking that a person is defiant or incapable. It means that my typing is slow. Typing takes much practice. I type one key at a time. Anxiety plays a major role as well, interfering with concentration. Sensory differences make keeping calm a challenge. These challenges can contribute to impulsivity. These differences, and the way they appear, can feed the misconception that autistics don't have the ability to think and feel as others do.
Shake. Yeah, actually,
it's okay. It's okay.
What has been most helpful? Taking a strengths-based approach has brought me confidence in my abilities. It has helped me set and achieve heartfelt goals, like going to college. The focus is on providing supports to help me achieve my goals, and not on my deficiencies. It feels good to focus on really strong abilities. Overall, I want people to see me as a normal guy who communicates differently, and learn that investing in a relationship with me and other non-speakers is worth the time. We may have more in common than you think.
Mr. Kotler, I just want to thank you again for being here to share your experience and perspective with us relative to assistive technology. We understand that technology really has transformed your life, and thank you for sharing that life lessons with us. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul, again. It's my pleasure now to resume the normally scheduled program with our next speaker. Is Ms. Rosanna Vidmir Iliescu. Senior Program Officer at the Digital Inclusion Division of International Telecommunications Union. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Her Excellency, Honorable Assistants, I have to say that I'm really privileged to share this moment with you. I'm completely overwhelmed. It's actually not a surprise that you are number 5 in the world with all this. Everything that you already said, it's only music for my ears. And I think we have together a common goal. It's inclusiveness. So on this tone, I have the pleasure to tell you that the International Telecommunication Union is committed to connect the world, and all this without any discrimination. More than this, the goal number 2 of a 5 goal that we have in ITU, it's inclusiveness. And we have a target which was adopted by all our member states, so all the countries, target 2.9, which call for enabling accessible environments in all countries by 2023. Without telling more, the work in digital inclusion that we developed for over 15 years now evolved from silos to a more holistic approach toward this inclusiveness. And our target is to empower people through technology and to enable everyone and anyone, regardless gender, age, ability, location, or financial means, because affordability is very important, to have available, accessible, and affordable access to technology. And I will make a small reflection on these last concepts, because I believe that when we all begin to work in ICT accessibility and in CRPD for over 10 years, we were all seeing the assistive technologies more like a medical issue, like a prosthesis, and we realized that, in fact, we were talking here, you were talking here, and I'm impressed about assistive technology, which part of this is artificial intelligence. And what does it mean for ITU accessible ICTs? So for us, we believe that equality, it's excellent, and providing same type of device to everyone, it's perfect. But we also have to take into account the equity aspect. We are not all different. So we have a different way of thinking, using, and different needs. So the accessible ICTs are the ICTs who have embedded the accessibility feature from the design stage of fabrication. And it's so easy to understand the universal design in architecture, which instead of stairs you have a ramp. It's more difficult to understand when it comes to technology. And what does it mean to technology? Is this smart technology? I'm using contact lens, so I'm increasing phones in this device. My daughter is 20, so she's not using any of the accessibility features. And a person with visual disabilities or hearing impairment can also use the same device that I'm using. And I think that if we all together try to push for having all type of technology more accessible, the affordability will also come. On this note, I just want to say that in particular for the case of children with autism and all the spectrum that is embedding this issue, our colleagues in WHO indicated that 1 in 160 children have an autism spectrum disorder. This is a very strong figure. And considering the SDG inclusive education with its target that refer for person with disability, the SDG 8, because if we don't have education, we'll not have employment either. So it's all linked. And we also have this target 8.5. The CRPD articles, I will not even mention, but all of them, because I only want to focus on Article 9, with its information and communication technology. I think that we have to mainstream technology in everything in order to achieve this inclusiveness that we all want to leave behind as a legacy for the generation to come. What I want to say is that, in brief, technology serves a lot ASD children, and technology actually helped them to be less enabled. I have so many notes that I would love to share with you because it's relevant to address some learning disabilities. But I will only want to tell you about the fact that through the social networking, these children can communicate easier. Through the fact that, for instance, now we have example of assistive technology like companion robots that the children can use and socialize with because they feel more comfortable with. And of course, I cannot comment more what the Assistive Technology Center in Qatar has been doing with the tracking devices to protect the children from danger that they can be exposed to, and all these devices that they shared with the family. If I understood well, around 600 devices already, and the same devices have been used for older people, more or less 400 devices. So I definitely think that technology is good for all. I definitely think that with all the presentation that you put forward here for us, it's not anymore a doubt that we can help with technology children with autism to be integrated in the society. It's also a clear indication that with the advance of the technology through artificial intelligence, we can do even more. And with this in mind, I think what was also said by the director of DSA, in fact, we will all together manage to have these children with autism actually fully integrated into society, have the right education, that they have the right to have it, have the right to employment, and in this way have an inclusive digital society and economic growth for everyone. I would love to continue this discussion with you. I only want to finish telling you the ITU is very committed. We assist member in developing policies, trainings, and all this we are doing. I think awareness raising is something that we have to continue doing. We are doing Accessible Americas for over ICT for All for over 6 years, Accessible Europe. So I do hope that one day we can do together the Accessible Arab States and share all these good practices, because awareness raising and sharing good practices is the way to go forward to achieve all these good things. Thank you for your attention.
Mayor Iliescu for that inspiring vision of universal digital accessibility. And for our final, but certainly not last but not least speaker, Mr. Leo Jonquera from Micro. Yes. Leo is a friend of mine, often speaks, and he's worked with us for a number of years now. He's a principal solution specialist at Microsoft Corporation, and he'll share with us today some of the exciting developments in one of the largest leading technology companies in the world. Leo?
Hello? All right. My voice is a little hoarse. I'm sorry about that. But thank you so much to putting this together. It's my favorite topic, technology and autism. And I'm very excited. I want to thank the rest of the panelists as well. I think some of the things you discussed, hit on a number of technology topics which are key and fundamental to trends that are taking place and areas where Microsoft is investing. I'm just wanted to let everybody know, so if you have any questions, the reason that I'm here amongst a panel of PhDs, my background is that I cover digital transformation for the largest banks, essentially covering the Azure space or our cloud space, where there's some amazing technologies that are taking place. My experience in relation to autism is because I have a son, 15 years old, right there. You see him in the red jacket, and he was diagnosed with autism at 18 months. So we've had a lot of experience, and it's all personal, parental experience. One of the things that drew me to coming to Microsoft was that they had an incredible autism benefits program. I know a lot of the folks here have mentioned behavioral, and the benefits program at Microsoft covered all of that at a time when it wasn't being covered. Certainly not to the level that Microsoft covers it. And I know Autism Speaks has done some amazing things to broaden that coverage, but at the time that I joined Microsoft, it really wasn't it wasn't pervasive at all. So the thing that I found after being at Microsoft is that there's a great culture for community and supporting autism. And I became an autism evangelist within the company. They allow you to take on the stretch goals and to do things for the community, and are very supportive of that. I found it out on my first interview that there was a person who was interviewing me who would go down to help with people in the Dominican Republic and spend a week there, and Microsoft would actually pay the charity for his time. And so that all really got me to think that Microsoft had a great culture, very aligned to my family and my values. Just to go through a few things, in terms of the evangelism, I've been focusing a lot more on technology as of late, and how technology can impact the world of autism. We've also been very involved with awareness. Lighted Up Blue, my picture right there is in the bottom right-hand corner is with my son at a Microsoft store where during World Autism Awareness Day, there was we lit up the video wall blue, and that happened in about 69 stores. And in another slide, you'll see that we also do that for our Times Square office. We light up the cube in Times Square blue for World Autism Awareness Day. The other areas I've been involved with are around advocating for Autism Speaks, and speaking at engagements like this one. The thing that the culture of Microsoft, I think, is truly incredible, and I think this is something that a lot of folks can maybe take away. The kinds of things that have come from our commitment to abilities and has been just amazing. There are a ton of supports for employees within the organization, ways for us to communicate with each other, share experiences, share new projects and technology that we're putting together so that others can join. So there's a whole area related to employees, but as you know, or may have heard, that there's a big push on autism employment hiring within Microsoft, and that was announced here at the UN back in 2015. So there are a few other areas as well that have been really essential. Digital transformation for autism, AI for good. We have summits around abilities, and we have 1 week, all of the Microsoft teams get together and develop, it's called a hackathon, and develop solutions for abilities. So the reason why I bring up these topics is that I want to make sure that this group and the people on this panel, if they have any questions or want to reach out to me about anything, feel free to do so. Microsoft is a very inclusive culture, and there are no lack of people at Microsoft willing to do work that's valuable and meaningful in this area. And there's been a lot of great projects that we've embarked on. When good idea, needing technology, and we can help. There's, I think it's important to note that the organization itself is very supportive. Satya Nadella, the CEO, has a son with special needs, and I think it's one of those things that have led to what our mission. So the empathy that he has found in this journey had waked his way into the mission statement, which is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. And I think that's a lot of the work that you're doing today is very focused on that. So I appreciate that, and let you know that we're very supportive of it. The area that I've been much more focused on right now is around technology and autism. I've sort of focused on a number of principles that'll help in the development of this technology. The key representation here is really that we pulled together some great events around building this technology. This happens to be the Financial Services Autism Hackathon, and we have a number of companies that participated in that. They gave us their developers to come for 2 days and to work on technologies that could help people with autism. A number of the technologies, if you look at the bottom one there, you'll see it's a video capture technology, so the capturing of a therapy session and then the overlaying of data that was collected using a device being overlaid on top of that. So the BCBA, or the therapist, the person who's writing the programs, can actually take a look at when the data is being collected, what's preceding that data, and understand if the program needs to be tweaked or changed. And they can also do this remotely because they can't always get to the locations. The important thing about this one, I think, is that there's an opportunity to further enhance this technology with some of the things that were discussed here today with AI. I know that you had the idea that the AI itself would be embedded in the video to be able to identify certain, whether they be stereotypies or whether it be eye gaze, or whether it be paying attention. And that, if we can start with a simple use case like this, that this technology will inevitably develop and move forward, and the features will be enhanced. And if we can make sure that we're advocating for those with autism to the groups developing this, I think we have a good chance of coming up with truly groundbreaking technologies. And then to close it off, I think this is there's no better time for this discussion to take place. The maturing technologies that we have, you mentioned a number of them, AI, machine learning, cognitive, the cloud, mixed with some of the trends that we've seen pretty pervasive around the world, big data, social, and mobile, mixed with the needs of this particular community, the highly individualized, everybody, Stephen Short said that if you met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism, and that can lead to a challenge of not having being able to address the needs of that specific individual. But now with cloud and global distribution, there's much more of a possibility of being able to align those things together. And finally, this is a very data-intensive methodology for addressing the needs. And with that come a lot of opportunities to take advantage of the data. We saw a lot of data being collected here And I think the machine learning capabilities to be able to address some of the the outcomes, to be able to predict those outcomes, to be able to find the best learning path for those outcomes, I think will be absolutely critical. So thanks, everybody. I appreciate this. And again, thank you for pulling this together.
Before I open the floor for Q&A and discussion, in the interest of time, I want to thank all the speakers again this afternoon for sharing with us their wisdom, their expertise, and of course their valuable time on this important conversation. So there are many threads that we can explore together. I want to open the questions and answers to the floor, the audience, for any of our speakers. Yes, please.
Thank you. Mirgul Muldaisaeva, I'm ambassador of Kyrgyzstan. First of all, I would like to thank Ambassador Alia Altani and Permanent Mission of Qatar for organizing such very important and timely event on the margins of this conference. And I would like to thank all such great line of outstanding speakers today for your presentations, which were very comprehensive, useful, and interesting from different angles. For my country, for Kyrgyzstan, we have just ratified convention, the rights of persons with disabilities this year. Actually, we are going to present all documentation to the UN Secretariat tomorrow. So we are new in this group of member states. So in my country, officially, we have 20,000 children with autism. And after your presentation, I'm so impressed, and I do understand that we have to learn a lot from you. And I hope that after becoming the member of this convention, we are open to collaborate with you, to learn from you. And once again, I want to salute the state of Qatar for its leadership on these issues, and in order to not to leave no one behind. Thank you very much.
In
the name of God, I would like to thank Her Excellency Ambassador Alia Ibn Khalif, and I would like to also thank you for this initiative to have chosen this very important issue, and which is one of the challenges for a comprehensive one. I am Mohammed Aid Aziz. I am from the ministry, Moroccan Ministry for Family, and so I will not talk about people with autism and technology, but I would like to inform you that the ministry has a national program to enhance the skills for service provider, and it has the name of Rafiq, and after a few years we have 100 and plus experts who will do the training for the families and caregivers. And as the experts, and there are educators, doctors, social workers to provide the expertise. Because the work we've done, and a lot of families, they facing a lot of challenges, and especially a lack of expertise. And for this occasion, I would like to thank Her Excellency, and we would like to work and partner together for all these important workshops and the pioneering work that the country of Qatar is doing on this matter.
Anyone else? So actually, I have one question for Ms. Manai. So I'm very impressed by the vision that's been laid out in terms of the use of technology to support individuals and families affected by autism and other disabilities. And very impressive to see the array of products and technology and the approach that you're taking, making open source, allowing adaptation by other parties, is a very progressive model for sure. My question is, what do you think are the barriers for implementing this vision, specifically in Qatar and perhaps in the Gulf region?
Thank you, Dr. Andy, for this opportunity again to let's say, talk about how really what are the challenges that we faced when it comes to advancing the technology and widening the number of solutions. As you know, the Arab world, let's say, it's not a very mature ecosystem for developing technology in general, and specifically for assistive technology. So first of all, we started to look at the ecosystem, what is needed to enhance the technology, how we are going to stimulate the number of technology, what is in the market actually. So first of all, lacking of information and data around the availability of Arabic technology was the first challenge. And secondly, if there were any technology, they were very expensive because they are rarely founded in the Arab world. So these two challenges were the biggest. So we started to try to let's say tailor an ecosystem that will solve the problems that we are facing. So this is why we try to allocate fund. We try to look at the basic or the basic resources for stimulating the innovation. So this is why we try to raise the awareness among incubators and among young entrepreneurs and small businesses that it should be business, but it should be also looking at the social, let's say, return of investment when it comes to people with disability. So it was, we had a lot of discussions, a lot of focus groups, a lot of convention, a lot of policy advocacy as well around it. And the things that help us actually, that Qatar published in 2011 the e-accessibility policy. So the awareness was a little bit better when it comes to the development of technology. So yeah, it was a journey, and still we are in the journey. We cannot say that the ecosystem is perfect now, but we can say that we participated in enhancing the ecosystem, and we are looking also to strategic partnership to make the ecosystem stronger and available for all the Arab countries. And we are happy to make everyone access the ecosystem that we created in Qatar.
Very much.
Me. Of course, thank you to Ms. Maha. I just want to add also an obstacle or a challenge for us as practitioners and as service giver is also the qualified, desired human resources who can be trained and who can serve and provide the service for those children. This is for us is really a challenge. We, my colleague Noor Al-Salati is just had her master degree in special needs, and we encourage all of our colleagues in the Shafallah, but still there is a need to have qualified people. As our colleague from Morocco, he said training the service givers is very important, but also having the desired qualified human resources is very important, because they burned from inside after 2-3 years, and they leave the service. So inshallah, we tackle this challenge with the help of MEDA, inshallah. I just want to add this challenge as well. Thank you.
Added comment. It's very clear that even though technology facilitates our work and enhances the impact and the reach of our work, you still need the human resources to start to be able to use the technology appropriately and deploy them appropriately. Yes.
If I can continue, so I cannot agree more with these remarks, and I want to present you from another perspective. ITU is also involved in the UN Global Initiative on Decent Jobs for Youth, and we are also leading the Digital Skills Campaign. And we all know that youth unemployment is a global challenge. So one of the problems that we have is, let's say, what the universities are promoting in studies and what the real workforce are requiring. So this skills mismatch that we all have to address is. And what I want to say is that while everybody is talking about STEM, and indeed, as you know, the STEM education, it's definitely the one that will enable young people to have more security in the employment. The second sector that I think we have to look at, and I will explain what, is exactly what you said, care service. And why? Because the world is getting old. And while we are talking here about autism, and exactly as I mentioned, the devices that have been used for autism have been also used for older people, we will have half of the world population actually very old in the next 13 years. And I definitely think that if we manage to have a more holistic perspective and not necessarily look at a specific topic and just keep there as it is for autism, and then look a little bit more broader how whatever you are doing can be also may benefit other type of disabilities and even all of us, because none of us is getting any younger. So definitely perhaps promoting this type of studies for healthcare as a mean to ensure employability in the region, and Arab region also, it's one of the regions who is challenging this unemployment, would be very beneficial for everybody, for persons with disabilities, for older people, but also for employment and economic growth. Thank you.
Please.
I have questions as well as comments. I will start with my comments on the dementia, because you mentioned that dementia is also part of the disability, which is, I agree with you, it's become very serious, not only, globally. Qatar Biomedical Research Institute, as part of, vision, mission of the institute, we're tackling also dementia from different perspective. We are engaged with the Hamad bin Khalifa HMC Corporation to conduct prevalence study for the first time, like what exactly we've done for the autism. We're also conducting cutting-edge research to develop new methods for diagnostics, early diagnostic and so on. So we are not ignoring dementia at all. It's part of our also tasks. But I agree that new technology should be engaged in the dementia. My question to Ms. Aman and Ms. Maha, Qatar are proudly ahead of any other countries in the region in terms of the autism and what we have achieved. And as you know, there's many desperate families and kids in the whole region, MENA region especially, that need of help. And you gained that expertise and experience. and you achieved a lot. How can you translate your achievements to help the whole region and their families? And you also, as you know, we are many challenges in that region in many phases. Is there any plans to move on to broaden your expertise to the region?
Dr. Omar. Yes, technically, we just started to discuss it with Her Highness in our last trip to Malaysia, that we need to share our technical expertise and whatever achievements that we achieve to other needed also children all over, let me say the word, but the MENA. For example, in Gaza and Palestine, we have a collaboration with the Happy Child organization, and we exchange with them our expertise, and we will start through a network that we are building and creating this network last April 2016 when we promoting the Agenda 2030 among the non-governmental organization. We have quite a good number of non-governmental organizations who are heavily work in autism and persons with disabilities. So I think through also Qatar Fund, Qatar Development Fund, we also discussed this upcoming month, how can we expand and how can we take our level of expertise to other organizations. If you do have any specific organization, please feel free to send it to me and I will communicate with them immediately. As you may know, we serve persons with disabilities in Qatar with no any conditions. Based on human rights, there is no any religion or nationality or gender conditions. We serve whomever children who need us. They are applied and simply just be one of the affiliates to the center. So the right answer is yes. We are happy to exchange our expertise, and that will be also for the benefit of our practitioners and staff within the Shafallah. Maha, if you want to add.
Of course, we are not starting to do this, but we are actually doing this. And let me add to what we discussed earlier, that the best way to encourage using technology in any Arabic country is to build capability and to provide the knowledge about accessible platforms and to provide the technology or the basis of technology. So the best thing that we've done for the Arab words right now, that we worked with RISNA, which is the famous international accreditation body for the AT professional certificate, and we Arabized the test. So now we can have more certified Arabic AT practitioner having a certification that also advance their career. So this is one thing that we helped the Arabic countries, and we did it for, we invested with RISNA, so it's now available for them for free. And moreover, anyone who's interested to be certified from RISNA, MEDA is supporting the certification. So we are paying the fees even to take the test. And our goal is to raise the number of AT super users in the region. Another thing is the AT portal, and I'm repeating the AT portal because it's a very important portal for the Arabic speakers, because it contains all the information about available assistive technology in one place, and this is a unique portal. So I encourage everyone to have a look in it and to share it, and we always like to spread the word through our international partners. So I expect after this participation that The portal is shared with other organization actually dedicated for people with disability and elderly people and people with function limitation. Also, we have our annual event that invites all the interested bodies and all the stakeholders and also people with disability to understand what is happening around technology, how they can use technology, what is happening around ICT access, digital inclusion in education, in other sectors. So it's like a platform that is open for anyone who's interested in this field. And this is a way of how Qatar is trying to reach out for the other countries to benefit from all the knowledge or the expertise that we already started in Qatar.
If there's no other question, comments? Yes.
Question, it will be only a comment. I think we all challenge also, we are talking about inclusiveness, and we challenge also with regard sharing these good practices. Why? Because I would have loved to immediately react and invite you and your country to participate in our study groups meeting. So ITU leads through our member states who are the ministries of telecommunication a specific study group meeting on question 7, which I actually in which I work as a rapporteur with our member states. And this, it's a platform in which all countries come and share their experience and their challenging and their failures, because it's so important to learn from errors, to not repeat it. And we also, through this, we provide capacity building. We developed, so I would like to discuss more with you. We developed training courses in ICT accessibility, in web accessibility, and we have even an approach from a business perspective, what governments will win if they apply policies and strategies in ICT accessibility, what private sector would win, what academic member would win, for everybody. But the topic of ICT accessibility is not always under the Ministry of Telecommunication. In some countries, for instance, the Commonwealth countries, it's more the international department. In some other countries, can be social affairs. So I think that the reflection that I want to put here forward is that while, of course, my first feeling is that I'm really eager to promote everything that I heard here with the help of Qatar throughout this study group meeting. And I really would love even to jointly organize a regional event on accessibility. The challenge that it will be, perhaps, and we all have to address it, is that we all have to be together. So with regard to the government perspective, even if this is to social affair or international affair of Ministry of Telecommunication, let's try to see the purpose, what we really want to achieve, inclusiveness. So regardless who is really responsible for, let's try to work together, and perhaps through your Ministry of Telecommunication, you can be on this let's say, delegation and attend this ITU meeting, which are so informative. And by the way, the next is in September, so we will also provide executive training for everybody in order to leverage this knowledge in ICT accessibility. So this is another topic for reflection on how to together to pull all this information and share of the good practice globally that it's so required and needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or remarks, questions? Mindful of the time, I want to thank everybody for being here, and for all the experts for sharing their experience, expertise, perspective, and of course valuable time. And I'd like to now return the floor back to Her Excellency.
Thank you so much, Dr. Andy, and thank you so much for your very able moderation of this panel. I want to thank again all of our great panelists, speakers, participants. I think we've learned a lot today, and I think this is a dialogue that will have to continue. I'm very happy to hear the idea presented by ITU, the need to build on the results we've heard today, the very much scientific results we have heard today, and maybe working on a regional symposium and building on the achievements that Qatar has done so far on this area. And I want to thank you again, and I promise you that we will continue the dialogue on this very important topic. Thank you, and the meeting is adjourned.